Hey, Charlie Campbell from WalterFootball.com here, and today's topic is, do teams tank? So, we've heard a lot about, teams possibly tanking for Trevor Lawrence, whether it would be the Jaguars, the Patriots. Last year at this time, there was talk of tank for Tua. No one was talking about Joe Burrow in July of 2019 as being a top of the draft quarterback prospect, so I guess that's why we play the games, right? But anyways, right now, the hype around Trevor Lawrence, I think, is pretty justified. He's an amazing quarterback prospect, could be the best quarterback prospect to enter the NFL since Andrew Luck back at Stanford in the 2012 draft. So naturally, with a quarterback prospect like this, you have teams supposedly looking to tank for the player to get that number one overall pick and get the quarterback of their dreams. And now I wanted to talk with you guys about, do teams actually do that? Do teams actually lose on purpose in order to get that quarterback prospect? And the answer to that is yes and no. It's complex. It's a difficult situation. So for as far as the yes part, we'll break it in half here. So for yes, for example, at the end of the 2014 season, Tampa Bay was in line to get the number one overall pick in the draft. Week 17 comes, they jump out to a lead. Looks like they could win this game and blow the number one overall spot. Then Lovie Smith empties the benches and they end up losing. They get the number one overall pick. So in that game, it looked pretty clear that the Bucs wanted to protect that draft pick slot. So from that regard, at that point in the season, I think it does come into the equation with how teams, how coaches make decisions on who's going to play, what they're going to do as far as playing young players, getting them time, saving veterans, that kind of thing. It comes into play at that part. Now, the other part that it comes into play, I would say, as far as tanking goes, is with ownership and management. Right now, I can say with zero doubt that, say, a team that might be going into a rebuild, say like Jacksonville, for example, their ownership might be fine with them losing in order to get Trevor Lawrence. Or say a year ago, Miami. Miami was the big one in terms of tanking for Tua. Now, they, as an organization, decide to do a rebuild. So ownership approves and the GM kind of says, this is one route we could go towards building a team. And with Miami, Chris Grier and Brian Flores, the head coach, they're on the same page that they were going to do this rebuild. They had the backing of ownership who weren't expecting them to win right away, so they could go about making these trades with Laramie Tunsil and Minkah Fitzpatrick to build up their draft capital so they can build a core together of a team. So in that regard, I think you can see where ownership is fine with, taking a losing season, knowing that they might have very few wins in the year. They get the quarterback to build around. They deal other players. They build up other draft picks to surround that player with talent around him and a core for the roster to build around for years to come. That also leads to cheaper contracts so they can spend more in free agency, which is exactly what Miami did. Now, on the coach side of things and the player side of things, they aren't interested in tanking for the next guy. Like the coaches are always afraid of losing their jobs. They don't want to get fired. They don't want to have to uproot families. I've had coaches say to me, gosh, I've moved my kids 3 or 4 times now. I don't want to do it again. They're going to hate me. They like where they're going to school. They like their friends. I don't want to get fired and have to move again or be away from them while they stay here. So coaches think of that kind of side of things. And the players too. Right now, say at Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew doesn't want to go 0-16 so the Jaguars can draft Trevor Lawrence and replace him. He wants to win. He wants to play well so he can get a big mega contract and an extension like Pat Mahomes just got. So that's the player side of things. They want to play well so they can get that next contract. Coaches don't want to get fired. There are plenty of coaches who've been fired who weren't able to get back into the NFL. You know, young guys, older guys. I know a coach who was on the Bucs staff with Raheem Morris after John Gruden era, and then when Raheem Morris was fired, he tried hooking on with a few teams over years. Now he's in the nightclub business in New York, so he couldn't get back into the league. So there's no guarantee that coaches are going to get that next job. So from the coaches' side of things, they don't want to go 0-16. They're not interested in tanking. You know, I'm talking about a lot of the assistant coaches, the position coaches, your coordinators, that they can be the fall guys even if the head coach survives. You see the coordinators get fired all the time as being the fall guy for a down year, and then a new coordinator comes in, but the head coach and GM survive. So the coaching staff as a whole doesn't want to tank for any player. The players as a whole don't want to tank for any player. But organizationally, you can see where organizations decide we're going to go into rebuilding mode, trade away some guys for draft picks, set ourselves up to have capital to move up for a quarterback, kind of like the Bills did a few years ago when they went into a rebuild, collected a lot of picks, were in position to trade up for Josh Allen. The Jets traded up for Sam Darnold. So you can see organizations decide to do a rebuild in that way. But I can tell you they don't want to go 0-16. You know, a lot of people on that staff, because they don't want to be the fall guys. They don't want to get fired. I had a source, a scout with the Dolphins last year. I texted him after their first win and said, hey, congratulations on the win. You know, the team's getting better. It's going to get better, you know, over the back half of the season here. And he said, you know, thanks, man. I really did not want us to go 0-16, so I'm happy we at least got one. So that's kind of the rationale from the different people in the league. They have different perspectives on it. An owner, I can tell you right now, if you told the Jaguars or say the Panthers, would you say to David Tepper, would you go 0-16? Were you willing to go 0-16 this year to get Trevor Lawrence and then have a 15-year run where you win a Super Bowl, maybe two, and you're a perennial playoff team? He'd take that 0-16 in a heartbeat. But there are plenty of coaches and players who don't want that. Teddy Bridgewater doesn't want that. He wants to be the starting quarterback of the Panthers for years to come. So it's a complex thing. So in some ways, yes, there is some kind of tanking rebuild philosophy. And then for a lot of people on teams, it's an absolute no. There's no way they're willing to lose and lose their jobs to get a quarterback from a college team. So that's it for today. Follow us on Twitter at Walter Football, at Draft Campbell. Subscribe to our videos, share them, like them. Really helps us out on building this channel. Appreciate it. I'll be back with you guys soon.